Om. 10 Commandments, Principles of Arya Samaj, Part 17. The sixth principle, the ideal of universal good, Section 2. What is the soul? To understand what is meant by the welfare of the soul, it is necessary first to form an idea of what soul is. Every living being is a soul. Every soul is eternal, a distinct entity. It is neither evolved from God nor will it evolve into God. All the intellectual activities of man and animal are due to it. As a matter of fact, psychic and physical phenomena belong to two different planes between which there is nothing common. Mental experiences and nervous movements take place side by side, but there is no intelligible way of explaining one set of phenomena in terms of the other. Besides, there take place interactions between two living beings which cannot be ascribed to any physical agency. Of these, telepathy is the most pronounced. Cases have been reported of the death scene of a relative presenting itself with all its actual surroundings in detail before the mental eye of a kinsman at a distance dividing countries and even continents. Professor Ramdev of Gurukul Hardwar was the year before last in Africa when his son-in-law died at Lahore. The former had a vision of the latter's death and tried to evade the tragic feeling created by the presentiment by immersing himself heart and soul in his public activities. The vision would not be dismissed till news from India confirmed the previous intimation in all presumption of the soul. The ability to go on thinking even when the brain has been removed or has turned on account of some physical disorder into a mere abscess in another evidence of the distinct existence of the soul. Camille Flammarion, in his Death and Its Mysteries, Volume 1, gives the following instances of this metaphysical power of the soul. My learned friend Edmund Perrier presented to the Academy of Sciences in his lecture of December 22, 1913, an observation of Dr. Robinson's concerning a man who had lived for nearly a year with almost no suffering and with no apparent mental trouble, with a brain that was nearly reduced to a pulp and was no longer anything but a vast protected abscess. In July 1914, Dr. Hallopin brought to the Society of Surgery the account of an operation that had been performed at the Necker Hospital upon a young girl. At the trepanning, it was ascertained that a large proportion of the brain matter was reduced literally to pulp. The patient recovered. We communicate by means of our vocal organ through the auditory nerves of a distressed man or animal, the voice of sympathy of our inner being. It has its effect. The distressed animal is soothed. Now, neither the sympathy nor the feeling of being soothed can belong to the physical machinery of the bodies of these two sentient beings. These two beings, namely the originator of the voice and its recipient, are souls. They act on each other in a manner in which no physical substance could. Memory, dreams, the continuity of our knowledge, generalization of concepts, classification of and objects and notions, synthesis, analysis, association of ideas, illusion and hallucination, none of these can be demonstrated to be the effect of the activity or non-activity of physical organs alone. If dreams be the result of the activity of a part of the brain, while the remaining portion is at rest, the part which has been active should alone remember it. The coordination of experience of which the processes enumerated above are various forms cannot be attributed to the same cells of the brain to which simple perception is attributed. For if this be possible, why should not the complex processes take place at once? That there is a graduation of processes from simple to complex betokens the inability of the physical organism, which is made of uniform cells, to accomplish all the processes on its own account. To unify and tabulate experience, one superior entity distinct from the cells has of necessity to be assumed as the receptive and coordinative agent. That is the soul. Some liken memory to impressions on photographic plates. Was one plate ever observed to receive impressions of more than one scene consecutively and keep each imprint distinct and intact? Nor can the brain, which also is one, accomplish this physical marvel. Memory in reality is a function of the soul. It relieves the brain to be always free from fresh photos. The storing of impressions is a spiritual process, so too is tabulation. After all discussions as to the existence or non-existence of souls, the notion of one's own permanency, to which all other notions which come and go find invariable reference, persists. One may dismiss from one's mind every other object, every other phenomenon, every other idea, every other impulse. The one entity that cannot be so dismissed is one's self. The self is the soul. How the first appearance of life in the simple unicellular amoeba can be accounted for only by postulating the distinct existence of souls has been shown elsewhere. The soul is eternal. How to impress the idea of its own creation on a soul is a mystery. The very first moment that the soul was aware of itself, it was. How then to teach it that at some time it was not? If there is anything absolutely inconceivable, it is one's own non-existence, whether in the past or in the future. The primary idea of existence which a thinking being has is of its own existence. The existence of no other thing can be conceived except as something like one's existence. The difficulty which the riddle of the origin and termination of sin presents, in case the creation of soul by God be admitted, has in the course of the exposition of principle 2 been noticed. The soul ever was and ever will be. Continued.